Yo ho ho, the NFC West Roundtable second episode. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for returning, or say, for example, that this is your first time. We are so excited to bring you yet another episode of the NFC West Roundtable. A hell of a finish, all right? There's teams that have been disappointed. There's teams that have grew to accept disappointment halfway through the season in general. And two teams are representing this division in the playoffs. And damn, do we have a good show for you today. Without further ado, let's start bringing in our hosts one by one. Have to bring in the man himself, Mike, the AZ sports fan. Come in, baby. What's going on with you, man?
What's up? What's going on? Hey, obviously the season didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to, but it kind of did. Draft is what we're looking forward to. The offseason is what we're looking for. We got the money. We got the draft capital. I'm super excited about it. I know we're going to dive into Seahawks versus Cardinals. I want to talk about that. But yeah, I'm stoked. Appreciate you for having me.
See, one thing I've always appreciated about you is that no matter where your team is, the positivity is always there, man.
You kind of have to be. I mean, I'm a Cardinal fan. You have to be.
It is crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, third place in the division suffered a damn heartbreak or two. All right? We have someone filling in for Norbcam this week, and that just so happens to be Steezy A. Smith. What's going on with you, man?
Man, I'm feeling great. Blessed by the best. Happy to be here. Nice to meet you, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. Listen, definitely excited to unpack exactly what the Seahawks season has entailed for 2023, and I have a lot of questions about what it looks like moving forward. But all right, guys, it's time for the playoff representatives to come in. All right? I'm sorry, gents. I'm sorry to do this to you. But let's go on ahead and bring in my boy, Jake, representing the Rams. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man? I'm glad we're doing this. A lot of fun last week, and happy to be here, and happy to be here after a Rams win. They finally beat the 49ers, albeit, not all the starters were playing, but hey, just watching my guy Carson Wentz, who I wanted back in 2016 over Jared Goff. If you could tell me back in the day, you show me a picture of him with the new uniforms beating the 49ers week 18 and Matthew Stafford is the starting quarterback, I would have been in a complete and utter trance. So just a fun day, to watch that. And now we're ready for the playoffs, and even crazier storyline with Goff versus Stafford.
I swear to God, these script writers were just on one this playoff. There's a narrative.
Not even hiding it anymore.
There's a narrative attached to each and every single game. I swear to God. All right, last but not least, certainly not least, sitting on vacation, but we still had to bring him in. San Francisco 49ers, Jesse. What's going on with you, man? How's the good?
What's up, my man? Yeah, listen, bye weeks are fantastic this time of season. Feeling very, very good. Happy for the Rams that they finally got off the schneid. They had to bring in Carson Wentz to do it, though. Carson Wentz always beats the 49ers somehow, some way. Doesn't matter the team. Good for you, man. Good for you. But now the playoffs are here. It's time to go win a Super Bowl, get number 6. San Francisco 49ers are ready to get the job done.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jake, worst case scenario, say, for example, you face up against the 49ers. You might even want to go on ahead and start Carson Wentz in that situation, if what Jesse just said was correct. All right, guys, listen, do us a favor and smash that like button the second that you come in. Helps the channel tremendously, and it propels it into the algorithm where more people it can be graced with this weekly news regarding your favorite division. And as always, definitely introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know exactly what team you're representing. We're building a community around here, baby. And that's where it goes. All right, guys, you know what? It's a somber moment for some. It's an exciting moment for others. But week 18 is over. The regular season is complete. All right? It definitely has been one of the weirdest seasons on the face of the planet from an NFL fan's perspective. However, I do want to hear, starting off, the AZ sports fan, Mike, this Cardinals season, right? Let's not lie to ourselves. I think all of us expected it to go exactly the way that it did.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure that you're not surprised that you finished the season off with 4 wins going into it, but you did see maybe a couple of bright spots with Kyler Murray coming back, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of wanted to start off thoughts of the overall season and what is your hope going into the drafts? As far as your confidence within your head coach, as far as confidence if Kyler still is that guy, or maybe you want to shop him around. what's going on in the world of the Arizona Cardinals where they can get back on top of that competitive nature?
Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of hoping to be back there, right? We always kind of be seen as the little brothers of the NFC West, and we want to change that narrative. And hopefully, with Kyler Murray, it's going to be the guy. I mean, at least for next year, we were already told that the plan is to build around him. Now we've heard that before with the whole Steve Keim and Josh Rosen's our guy, and then we got a quarterback anyways. I don't think that's going to happen with Kyler. I do think he made some strides, especially coming off of such a drastic injury that he had. Now, granted, we were 3 and 5 with Kyler Murray coming back. I think most of these games that we were playing, we were in a lot of these games, believe it or not. And the Seahawks game, we were actually in that game as well. Some might say that we kind of, tank season, kind of kicked in, and Matt Prater, because Matt Prater missed 2 kicks, and those are kicks that he usually doesn't miss in the grand scheme of things. And we lost by 1 point from a 2-point conversion that Geno Smith ended up converting. So overall, I think the season is, as expected. Does it hurt a little bit? Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't want to lose, of course, but I get where the future is going with Jonathan Gannon, Monty Austinport, our new GM. I like where we're going. I didn't quite understand it last offseason, especially because we weren't doing anything in the free agency. But now that we're sitting here, heading into 2024, I get it. We got 2 first-round picks. We got 6 or 7 picks in the top 100. Like we're set up. We got $50 million to spend in free agency. So with Kyler Murray, our expectations, or at least for me, is we need to compete next year. We got a franchise quarterback. We're paying him a lot of money to win games. Well, we hopefully are going to compete next year. Fingers crossed. Now, Jonathan Gannon, I do like what he's brought to this organization. We got a lot of bad juju, bad vibes within this locker room. And it definitely took Monty and Jonathan Gannon to come in here and kind of really change the culture up, because it's a lot of snakes in the grass with the whole Steve Keim and the last regime that we ended up having. So got to clean that up. Got to save some money. Michael Bidwell, our owner, isn't the most richest guy out there. So I think we took this year as a kind of a throwaway year. It's for him to recoup some money for some stupid contracts that he ended up extending. So the grand scheme of things, I'm not mad at it. I'm excited about 2024. Am I mad that we lost to the Seahawks? No, I'm not mad. Draft pick is cool. It just sucks losing to the Seahawks.
Got it. It definitely always blows, especially when you drop one right to a divisional. Ask Miami Dolphins fans.
Yeah.
However, one thing I do want to do, and then I also want to hear everybody else's take going into it, right? I mean, I basically heard the voice from a politician when it came into Kyler Murray. All right. We heard what you think is going to happen with Kyler Murray, my friend, but I want to hear your true answer here. If you were the GM of the Cardinals, is this just like a splash play and then it's going to revert back to Kyler just being Kyler next year? Do you want Kyler as your quarterback next year, or would you be pissed off if you sat with the draft and you were to bring in, say, for example, Drake May, or say, for example, trade up for a Caleb Williams?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, since we saw, it kind of depends, because to me, I didn't expect Kyler Murray to go 8-0 in these last 8 games. I wanted to see him kind of get better and better as the weeks have come along. And I think he's gotten better in these last 2 games. Now, we haven't seen the consistency in terms of a franchise quarterback. If you're going to say franchise quarterback, you really do expect him to kind of get to a higher level. I like what we saw in the second half of both games. Seems like he's kind of really getting his footing under him. Do I want the Cardinals to switch out? No. I want to give him one more year, because I do truly have hope, and it might be fool's hope, that we might be able to land a Marvin Harrison Jr. And this is going to be one of the last opportunities, because the excuses are going to be ending. There's no more excuses at this very moment. We have to give weapons. And to me, I like the idea of more of, I'm heading into 2024 ready to compete. And there's, the gloves are off, because if we go rookie quarterback, then the excuses come back for Cardinal fan base. Oh, it's a rookie quarterback. And that's 3 straight years of losing. I hate it. I hate losing more than anything. So to me, I'm cool with keeping Kyler. Am I going to give him an A+? No, I'm not. I'm going to give him probably a C- in terms of his 8-game stretch that he has. But he has gone through a big injury. He has never played in this form of football. He's never played under center. So it's a lot of learning. His footwork needs to be kind of learned. Everything needs to be learned. He's been playing shotgun 99.9% of the time since high school. So this is brand new to him. So we're willing, at least me, I'm willing to give him another opportunity. I'm still rocking my Kyler Murray jersey because he's my quarterback. But if it doesn't get it done next year, and I'm not talking about Super Bowl. I'm not talking about Super Bowl. I'm just saying get it done to a consistent fact so we're not embarrassed. Give us one more year. Let's hopefully see if we can get Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's get some more weapons and see what we can do.
This is interesting. All right, boys. For the rest of the roundtable, I want to ask all of you a question. And I do want to keep your bias aside because I know deep down you really hope that the Cardinals just make the worst decisions in franchise history. But I want you to look at this objectively. All right? Are you a Kyler Murray believer? Is he the person they should ride with, or should they go to a draft, or should they hit free agency for a new answer at the quarterback position? Starting off with Steezy. Talk to me, man.
Ooh, this one's tough. I like Kyler Murray. I do think that he's an above average starting quarterback in the National Football League, but I'm kind of with Mike here. All bias aside, I do think that you could use another year of a Kyler Murray in this system. You kind of want to give him some weapons. I mean, Hollywood Brown just wasn't healthy towards the end of the year. Michael Wilson wasn't healthy towards the end of the year. We saw James Conner running over everybody in the second half of the season when he was healthy. And so I'd give him another chance. You're paying him all this money. If you were to try to trade him, I mean, I don't think you'd be able to acquire as much just because his value isn't at its highest point right now. And so I think, again, bias aside, I'm keeping Kyler Murray for another year.
Interesting. All right, Jake. Talk to me, my friend. What are your thoughts on Kyler Murray? Is he the real deal or is he a fraud? What should the Arizona Cardinals do? Talk to me.
I think the Arizona Cardinals got to stick with Kyler Murray. You know, one thing that I really enjoyed watching when I was studying his tape is that this guy's finally starting to play football. Okay. There's no gimmick in the offense. He's really starting to learn how to play the quarterback position. He's making NFL reads, NFL throws. And you might be thinking, wow, that took a while. Why is he just now doing that? Well, he doesn't have a gimmicky offensive coordinator now. And so I'm not about to just bail on him when I don't have a clear distinction that any of these quarterbacks are going to be better than Kyler Murray coming out of this draft. I think Caleb Williams is being just, he's the next big thing. He's generational. I don't see that. I see somebody that plays off script when he shouldn't play off script. I saw him in cover 2 just not taking the right approach. I'm watching Drake May. I think, before that receiver came back from, I think it was suspension, look at Drake May without him. I think Jaden Daniels is actually the best quarterback in this draft. But regardless, I think you got to stick with Kyler and you got to learn from the mistakes that other teams have made. If you give up on a quarterback too quickly and you don't use this opportunity to package this pick and get a bunch of players in return, you're missing out. Look at what the Lions did with the Matthew Stafford trade and how this has basically jump-started their rebuild. Now they're the 3 seed in the NFC a few years later. Take advantage of this. The Rams did this with the RG3 trade, and they got a huge haul in return. To me, I think you have to either trade the pick or you got to go out and you have to get Kyler Murray a legitimate weapon. They have too many guys out there. Big fan of Paris Johnson. I just think it'd be stupid to give up on him. I think they really need to stick by him. And I'm hoping the Bears do it as well with Justin Fields. I think there's too much giving up on a quarterback too soon.
All right, Jesse. Talk to me, man. Your thoughts, non-bias. All right.
Yeah. I think both things can be true in this scenario. I think the right move is to keep Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray is better than maybe some people give him credit for. I think when he's fully healthy, he's shown he can creep into that top 10. That being said, I don't think Kyler Murray is the long-term answer either. They're in a situation where they've paid him way too much money. They cannot get out from under that contract. They have too many high draft picks. This is not the year to go after a quarterback. Build the team around Kyler. Let Kyler prove that he's not going to win you a Super Bowl and replace him when he's much cheaper down the line. Ultimately, in the salary cap era, there is 2 things that have won a Super Bowl at the quarterback position. Either Hall of Fame caliber, which Kyler Murray is not, or very inexpensive, which Kyler Murray is not. So I don't believe Kyler Murray is the long-term answer, but because of that contract and because of all these picks, I think you have to continue to ride it out. He's good enough to get you in the playoffs. He's good enough to show flashes. Ultimately, they will move on from him, but right now is not the right time.
Super interested to see what goes on in Arizona, man. I really am. I really, really am. But hey, you know what? Unfortunately, now it seems like Mike's just going to be making a lot of draft content, free agent content for the next couple of months. And hey, listen, as a content creator myself, I love the off season because that's where I can pull topics literally out of my ass. It's a beautiful thing. It's all speculation at that point. So, all right. Seattle Seahawks. All right. Talk about a damn heartbreaker. All right. Talk about a heartbreaker. Taking care of business, last game of the season, and all they needed was the Packers to go on ahead and lose that game. Unfortunately, they did not. Flirting with that 7 seed, it did not happen. Steezy, you and I were talking offline right before we went live today, and you said, you know what? I'm actually okay with it. I think it's a good thing. Why is it a good thing, Steve?
I think it's a great thing, actually, because it's the wake-up call that I think this front office, specifically Pete Carroll, needs. And there's a saying, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. In Seattle, I think it might be broke. So it might be time to fix it. And I'm not over here trying to call for Pete Carroll's head, but then again, he is also the vice president of football operations. He's not just the head coach of this football team. He literally runs the entire team. The only person above him is the owner, and a Jody Allen. And so I think that when you take a step backwards, sometimes it's kind of what you need to take that, step forward in the future. And I think that when you look at the defense, it's gotten progressively worse every year. One playoff victory in the last 7 years. The Seattle Seahawks have played probably twice the number of playoff games that the Jacksonville Jaguars have played, and yet the Jacksonville Jaguars have more playoff wins than the Seahawks in the last decade. And so I just think that when you look at what Seattle has failed to do this season, I mean, they led the league in penalties, right? Arguably the worst tackling team in football. Yes, Seattle might have handled business in week 18 versus the Arizona Cardinals, but did they handle business against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Did they handle business early in the season in games that they probably or could have won, namely the Bengals, the Cowboys game, the 2 games against the Rams? There were so many missed opportunities, so many failed opportunities. And so I think that what happened, what has transpired, which is, Seattle failing to make the playoffs, I think Pete Carroll is going to take a long look at himself in the mirror and really do some soul searching. Because let's say Seattle did make the playoffs and, Seattle maybe got bounced in the first round or maybe won a playoff game. I don't think that Pete would, think that any changes would need to be made. He would think, oh, Seattle, here we are in the playoffs yet again. I don't need to change anything. But sometimes you need to have your feelings hurt, for changes to be made. And for changes to be made, sometimes chaos has to precede that. And I do think that this is kind of chaos. That might sound like an exaggeration, but the standard has been set high in Seattle. And it just hasn't been anywhere near what the fans have expected in the last decade or so. And so, again, I'm not calling for Pete Carroll's head, but he definitely needs to do some soul searching.
See, the thing is that it was between you or the Packers taking the 7th seed. And obviously you did have some problems with that organization. But in your eyes, right, do you think that Seattle had a better chance of actually making some sort of noise in this playoff rather than the Green Bay Packers? Is there any part of you that thinks that Seattle is the better team than Green Bay and they just ended up, sort of sliding in ass backwards on accident?
I'd say so, and that's without any bias. I mean, again, we looked at how Seattle played Dallas on Thursday Night Football about a month ago, and Seattle really didn't punt once in that game and really played it down to the wire. And so Dallas would have been beatable. I think Seattle has a much higher chance of beating Dallas in the first round than the Green Bay Packers do. As far as everybody else in the NFC, I'm not so sure about that. But, yeah, I'd say Seattle is a better football team than the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, I could agree with that.
Okay. And then the last thing, and then, of course, I got to hear what the table has to say because we just got done, putting Kyler Murray on the spot. Right? And so I know a couple of Seattle Seahawks fans, right? It's a very polarizing topic.
Right.
Geno Smith. All right? Is he your dude? Or are you trying to shop around for an upgrade?
See, I really like what Jesse said. He talked about how, regarding Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, we're kind of stuck with the Geno Smith right now. It's not like there's a bunch of guaranteed money left on his contract. A lot of the incentives have been fulfilled, after the end of year 1. And so I guess we're not stuck with him, but I don't think that Seattle's in any position to draft one of those top quarterbacks. Seattle's picking 16th in their first round, and Seattle isn't really known to trade up. And as far as cap space, Seattle doesn't really have a lot of that. And so because of a lack of equity, Seattle is stuck with the Geno Smith. But it's not like that's a bad thing. I do think that Geno Smith is an above average quarterback in the National Football League. Is he a franchise quarterback? Is he going to be a quarterback that's going to take this team to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But I do think that because of Seattle's propensity to do so well in the draft, finding guys in the later rounds, getting a quarterback in the later rounds. I do think that this would be the perfect time to take a quarterback to kind of develop behind Geno Smith. And then maybe a year or two down the line, once his contract is up, then that guy can kind of step in and start for the Seattle Seahawks. And so I'm not mad if Geno's a starting quarterback next year. I don't look at him and think that he was the reason why Seattle didn't make the playoffs. There's a bunch of bigger issues at hand, namely the coaching staff, the defense, and whatnot. But I wouldn't be mad, once again, if Geno Smith is the guy next year.
Got it. Mike, the AZ sports man.
I've never been a Geno guy ever. Good for him. I'm never have been. I was happy when you guys gave him that contract. I was like, yeah, good for you. But it's only so much I can say. I can't really beat my chest up. We're always in the bottom. But in the grand scheme of things, I had more of a question about Pete Carroll. Do you think that if the Cardinals actually won that game, he would be more in the hot seat than him winning? Because now you guys are 9-8, right? It doesn't seem so bad. But if you're 8-9, losing to probably one of the worst teams in the NFL, is that kind of put more of enticement for fire under Pete Carroll? In my question to you, Steve, is there anything in the Seattle world saying that he is in the hot seat?
I mean, again, like I said, he's the vice president of football operations. There's nobody above him but the owner, right? And a Jody Allen. So he's not, there really isn't a seat for, him to kind of sit in and it being hot. I think that's kind of his call. Because Jody Allen, she's really not involved when it comes to the team. I mean, she got a whole bunch of other business endeavors and whatnot, a bunch of other things going on. What I do know is that they are going to have a meeting, in the next couple of days. And so we'll see what kind of comes from that. But that's a great question. I guess I'd say it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, 9-8, 8-9. I mean, at the end of the day, the defense and how bad it looked, the tackling, the lack of discipline, the penalties. I mean, that was kind of something that happened throughout the course of the season. So I don't think whatever happened in the season finale, that wouldn't have had much of a factor.
Cool. I mean, that's a great question right there, because you look at Pete Carroll, right? And I mean, obviously the guy, he's been the guy in Seattle for as long as I can possibly remember. But I mean, now you get all of those rumors now with Bill Belichick, right? Oh, okay, he's been in New England for quite some time, but these past couple of years have been rough. And just learning now with their lack of playoff wins, is a guy like Pete Carroll, is he truly safe? And how much is enough for him to actually be on the hot seat? Jake, what are your thoughts on that?
I think he's safe. Pete Carroll's an interesting one because he's kind of like Mike Tomlin in a sense that they just don't go away. Mike Tomlin, the Steelers, they win games that they shouldn't win. That's coaching. But at the same time, it's kind of like, do you want the jack of all trades, master of none, or do you want a guy that's going to go and steal someone's soul? Pete Carroll kind of hangs out. The Seahawks are in those games late. But do you want to see them bury teams? I don't know if, at this point in Pete Carroll's career, this is a team that's burying teams like they did in the Super Bowl 43-8 to that Broncos team, right? They just don't feel like that anymore. However, I think a lot of people turn the attention over to the quarterback. And I mean, over the last 8 games, Geno Smith, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, second in the league in big time throws, according to PFF. He's playing well. He also has, one of the highest drop rates. So a lot of these star-studded receivers, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and JSN, they're dropping passes, So I think a lot of the blame would naturally go towards Geno, but just watching the film with him too, it's the same thing. I mean, the guy, he's playing well. It's not really his fault. I would say, I feel bad saying this because, he was somebody that, one of the McVay guys, Shane Waldron. I think he's been a little bit of a problem. He brought over the Sean McVay concepts, right? So you have that offense in-house, but it's just the play calling. It's just very lackadaisical. I watch them. They don't run the ball enough. I mean, you got Kenneth Walker and you got Zach Charbonnet, and, all of a sudden I'm seeing Geno's throwing 40 times in a game. Geno's still playing well, but imagine how good Geno would be if you lowered it down to 30. And you ran the ball 25 to 30 times. And, now all of a sudden, and we've seen it with the Rams, how they've had, more of a marriage with the run and pass, where Sean McVay is more of a pass-happy guy. I think that's really hurting the Seattle Seahawks. And then on the defensive side, if you're not able to convert those third downs, now you're punting back to the defense. You're putting them back on the field. Defense has talent, but they also have too much money, kind of locked up into guys where, let's be honest, that trade that they made for Leonard Williams was stupid. It was dumb. It was a bad trade. They shouldn't have given up that high of a pick for him. Now they're going to have to pay him, and if they don't pay him, then they just gave up that pick for no reason. And then, you have Jamal Adams still on contract, and it's like they have these guys on their roster right now that they're paying in, big names maybe, but it's not great. And so, I look at guys like Boye Mafe and, guys like Devin Witherspoon, and those are the guys, as well as, the young linebacker whose name is escaping me. Those are the guys that you really want to build around on the defense. They have to build through the draft. I'm going to be honest with you. Pete Carroll will keep them afloat. But if they want to be a killer, they should go out and get an offensive coordinator like a Ben Johnson. Try to find what the Lions did. He came out of nowhere, right? Well, there's sure to be plenty of guys all over the NFL like Ben Johnson. You find a guy like that, you keep Geno being Geno, but also now you have that marriage between the run and the pass, and it allows you to balance out your attack more, keeps you on the field, keeps the clock running, keeps your time of possession high, and keeps your defense fresh.
Interesting. All right, Jesse. Thoughts on the status of the Seattle Seahawks, hot seat situation, the quarterback? What's going on with that organization? Will they regress next year, or will they take a step forward? And so you're muted, Jess.
I was
Love
going
the
on a whole
reaction.
soliloquy there. That was good. I don't know if I can repeat it, guys. No, Seattle has to be the most disappointing team in the division. They have to be, because last year they made the playoffs when nobody expected it. This year, Arizona was a team that nobody expected it. The Rams have exceeded expectations. We thought it was a one down year and then maybe they could bounce back next year. Last year, Seattle doing what they did and then coming back this year and essentially putting together the same season but missing the playoffs is a major disappointment. Now they're in an interesting situation. Paul Allen, who was the owner, I'm a Portland Trailblazer fan, born and raised in Portland, Oregon, so I'm very familiar with the situation they have there at the ownership group. Paul Allen passes away. His sister gets the estate. She's looking most likely to eventually sell the team, I would imagine, but Pete Carroll brings them some stability. So I imagine he's going to be there. But the problem is not the personnel in Seattle. The problem is the coaching. Not necessarily Pete Carroll, but who he has decided to bring in. That offense and that defense both look like they were baked out of the 1960s. There's no motion. There's no creativity. They've got great players up and down that roster, but they couldn't produce week in and week out. They were coached poorly. Now, when it comes to Geno Smith certainly isn't the guy. I love the chaos. Why not go get Russell Wilson and bring him back for the vet minimum because Denver's already paying him? How funny would that be? But
Wow.
ultimately, they do need to draft a quarterback. They needed to develop him. Geno Smith is going to cost you $30+ million this year. We'll see what they do next year. They should be a lot better. That roster is very good. I believe that. They have to be better, coach. They just have to.
Super interesting. Super interesting. All right, guys. It's wild card weekend. All right. And as mentioned previously, our good friend Jesse is riding high. I'm sure he's getting all nice and healthy, and he is.
That's why I'm muted over
salivating.
here. It's like, what do I got to say? I'm just going to kick back and chill, right? Isn't that the way this goes?
He is salivating at who he is going to be facing the following week. But don't worry, Jesse, I got some questions for you. All right. But I mean, we have to discuss the game. All right. And as we have pinpointed, all right, Matt Stafford is going back to Detroit. All right. That's one of the many narratives surrounding around several of the playoff games right now. And he is also facing the Rams' former quarterback in Jared Goff, which surprisingly enough, I did end up seeing a stat-by-stat comparison. Jake, I even think that you were the one that tweeted this, that literally showed the stats from Matt Stafford and Jared Goff since they have been traded, and they are virtually identical down the middle, which is almost wild to think, because one has a Super Bowl and then one finally has lifted Detroit out of the ashes, and they've won the NFC North for the first time since the Stone Age. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing. But Jake, thoughts on this game? Because the Rams right now have been coined by several talking heads as the scariest team in the NFC playoffs. One of the scariest, sneaky scary. Thoughts on this game? How are you going to come out with a victory? Do you think you can do it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This team is the hottest team in the NFL. Whether people realize it or not, they're the only team to win 7 games of their last 8. Over the last 8 games, the second most would be a bunch of teams. It'd be the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Bills, the Ravens all have 6 wins in that 8-game span. But since this team came off the bye, the Seahawks did not have to see Kyren Williams. So that was kind of like one of those, okay, a win is a win. You win 17-16, missed field goal. Yep, that's how close Seattle was to making the playoffs. But you win a game 17-16. And then after that, when Kyren Williams came back, who I said was the engine of the offense on my channel before the bye, and I said they lost him. They went 1-3 without him. They went on a 3-game losing streak. He came back. Stafford was healthy because he missed the Green Bay game. Stafford was healthy. Now, all of a sudden, you have Puka Nacua, who's having the greatest rookie season for a wide receiver in 104 years of the league. You have Kyren Williams, who's having one of the craziest seasons we've ever seen a running back have. He only played 12 games, and I believe he did something. He's like the first running back to be in the top 2 in rushing since 1937 or something like that. And then you have guys like Cooper Kupp, who just magically go to the background now. He's not even on big graphics anymore. It's Puka Nacua. It's Kobe Turner, Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate. And what we're starting to see with this Rams team is not only did their offense turn around drastically and become a top 10 offense, which, by the way, is a prerequisite if you want to win the Super Bowl, since the last top 10 scoring offenses have won the Super Bowl every single year since 2015 with the Peyton Manning Broncos, over the hill Peyton Manning. But this offense has completely changed a corner since the bye week. They've made adjustments. No more long developing throws, no more long developing plays for Matthew Stafford. They're using the short, the intermediate, and the deep game. Kyren Williams is absolutely balling. And a big trade they made in the offseason, right before the season started, was going out and getting the right guard of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who did not fit their blocking scheme anymore, Kevin Dotson. He's been one of the best offensive linemen in all of football this year. He's been huge in the run game. And so basically what we've seen is, I mentioned, the marriage of the pass and the run. Sean McVay, for the first time in his career, has established this consistent balance of the offense. And then you look at a defense and all of a sudden, yes, they're giving up the big play recently, which is a little concerning. But aside from that, they're top 5 in completion percentage allowed. And when you look at up front, this team is not letting you run the ball. They've only given up 100-yard rusher, and that was Christian McCaffrey in week 2. Everyone else has been relatively stifled. Since the last 8 games, they've had a top 5 run defense. And by the way, since the last 8 games, if you take the 14 playoff teams, they're top 5 in 33 different statistical metrics. So the way I see it is that this Rams team, because a lot of people had them tanking for Caleb Williams and they had them losing, 14 something games, they're not aware of the fact that this team was in every single game last year going in the fourth quarter, despite being ravaged with injuries and having 16 different offensive line combinations. So I'll say this right now. The Rams can not only beat the Lions this week, and they will be doing that, but they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And I think the only team that is in their way is the San Francisco 49ers. And I keep saying it, it's the Niners or the Rams, and that team is going to Super Bowl 58.
Oh, man. I already saw the facial expressions over there from Jesse. All right. I saw him. Oh, man, don't worry. I got a question for both of you that I think is really going to rile up the crowd here soon. But first, we have to hear about, everybody else's thoughts. Guys, Rams are going up to Detroit. The Detroit Lions have had flashes of a good football team, and then sometimes they've come out and they've looked like absolute dog water. But they are the division champions in the NFC North. Let me start off with Steezy. Steezy. Okay, thoughts on the Rams and the Lions. Who do you have winning?
Man, I'm with Jake here. I hate to side with the Rams, but he's just speaking straight facts. I mean, I like the Detroit Lions, but between the two quarterbacks, who do I trust more? Matthew Stafford or Jared Goff? Matthew Stafford. Between the two head coaches, who do I trust more? Dan Campbell or Sean McVay? Sean McVay. Between their the team's best defensive players, Aaron Donald versus Aiden Hutchinson, who do I trust more, especially in the playoff setting? Aaron Donald. And I mean, the Lions have their advantages. The Lions are at home. But overall, I think the Rams are the better football team. I think overall the Rams are the hotter football team. I think overall I trust the Rams more. And I think overall the Rams are just more explosive. The Lions, they're definitely going to look to get the ground game going. But I just think with the Rams, I mean, this is a high-flying offense right now. They're coming in hot, which is what you want to be, you know, come playoff time. And so I think ultimately that, yeah, I mean, again, like what Jake said, I'm going to reiterate what he said. Not only can the Rams beat the Lions, but I do think that the Rams can also upset the Niners in the next round if they were to move on and beat the Lions and potentially make a run at the Super Bowl.
I see you, Jesse.
Yeah. I see Mike and Jesse over here with some facial expressions. So I'm excited to hear some differing opinions. Mike, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're leaving Jesse at the end. Honestly, I think I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I was gonna kind of come in here and, you know, throw a stick, you know, a fork in the road and be like, oh, this, but I do agree with what Jake and Steezy and what they're saying. But I do also believe in the thought of Jared Goff and his comeback game. This is perfect storybook. This is you can't make this up any better, right? They trade away Jared Goff, he's coming back, and Matthew Stafford, like they were once quarterbacks for the other team. It's so crazy. I love the storyline. I'm excited to see a really, really hard fought game. I'm going to give it to the Lions. And it's only because I don't want to see the Rams. That's it. That's the only reason why. I do understand. I agree with all your guys' points, but I'm going to be a hater. I'm going to say the Lions are going to beat you guys.
He said the quiet part out loud.
All right, Jesse, go in because I know you want to. Why are the Lions beating the Rams?
Well, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves now. I was actually with Jake. Jake, I know you were on the screen solo. You should have seen it. A lot of head nods coming from me. I'm like, yeah, I'm picking up what he's laying down. I think the Rams are a live dog. They got arguably the best quarterback in the NFC. You got a hell of a head coach. You got a defense that's coming alive. A lot of veterans who have won a ring very recently. I actually am picking them to beat the Lions. Now, where the facial expressions came in, though, you think they can actually beat the 49ers? Absolutely not. This is the matchup I want. This is the matchup because the defense just is not going to hold San Francisco in check. They just can't do it.
But how is San Francisco going to hold our offense in check?
Well, I mean, they've done it. This is something they've done in the past.
No.
We've got a great defense. So I'm not worried about that. And we're at home. I think ultimately the Rams are the toughest test for the San Francisco 49ers. I will give it that. But when I say toughest test, I mean they're the only team that might not lose by double digits in the NFC. The San Francisco 49ers are primed to make it to a Super Bowl this year. They just are.
Okay. So following up with that, what team scares you the most right now in this NFC playoff picture? Who's the team that you look at right now and you're like, oh, fuck. If any team can beat us, it's going to be that one.
I don't look
at sending you home and, you know.
Listen, I honestly, and this is people that have watched my channel for a long time, know that this is not a homer take at all. I have picked against the 49ers in certain weeks. I'm known as like the skeptic when it comes to the 49ers. It takes a lot to win me over, but this team is just different, man. They really are. There's not a team that worries me, and that's just being honest. I don't think that there's a team in the NFC that can beat the San Francisco 49ers. Now we get to the AFC, and I think things get very interesting. I think there are 3 teams over there that can give the 49ers all that they can handle, but the NFC right now is not very strong. The Rams have done a fantastic job. Next year, the Rams have about $40 million in cap space, assuming Stafford, Kupp, Donald all come back, which I think they're going to, and you got a full bevy of draft picks. Now we can talk. I think next year it's really interesting, and that gap closes a little bit more, and now we're in for a dogfight. But this year, I think the Rams probably can give them the most that they can handle out of the NFC. But even then, I think we're talking about a 2-score victory. I really do.
Wow. Jake, who poses the greatest threat to the 49ers in this playoff picture?
It's the Rams, man.
Yeah, baby.
I mean, man, it's so obvious. Are you kidding me? All right, here's the deal. Okay, I picked the 49ers to beat the Rams. Rob Guerrera, he's in the chat right there. Shout out to him. Also a great 49er creator. But and we actually did a preview for that, but I picked the Rams to lose that game. And I said, look, this is going to be a close game. They're going to slowly but surely close the gap over the year. They're going to beat them week 18 on their turf. Now, I truly believe that they win that game if both of their starters play. What I don't think people understand is that this team has won 7 of the last 8. They've beaten the Browns. They blew them out, by the way. They beat the Saints, who are one of the hottest teams in football right now. Okay, they beat the 49ers, with the backups and whatnot. But like that Giants game in December was not easy. They had just beaten the Packers not long ago. They went and beat the Eagles. I guess anybody could beat the Eagles right now. But the thing that was most impressive to me was their loss. It was the most complete game of the year for the Rams. And I watched that same team that they lost to in Baltimore in the frigid, freezing rain, against Lamar Jackson. And they don't call holding. Jesse, you found that out the hard way. They do not call holding on that offensive line. So it's like impossible to stop Lamar. They lost on on an overtime punt return touchdown. And I watched that team and I said, you know what? The whole year, I said, coming in this year, 10-7. Okay. They are going to the playoffs. I don't care what anyone says. Don't listen to J-Mac or any of those people saying they're devoid of talent. They're wrong. They're going to the playoffs. They're not only going to go to the playoffs, they're going to go to the divisional round. I had them losing to the Lions because I thought the Lions would be better than what they currently are, truly. But my thing is, after that week 14 matchup with the Ravens, I watched things that I had not seen them do all year after what they did to the Browns. And I was like, you know what? This team can win the Super Bowl. And I thought I was a little crazy saying that. And then I started to watch. And then I saw the Ravens and what they did on the 49ers home turf and how they gave Brock Purdy fits. And I was like, well, Matthew Stafford handled that defense way better. And I'm thinking, look, I'm also not a Brock Purdy hater. I hate when people say he's a game manager. I think the guy is a hell of a quarterback. And I think a game manager is just, it's BS. If you want to say he's a system quarterback, most quarterbacks are. So that's not even, offensive. But the point I'm making here is that why not the Rams? 2 years ago, they won the damn thing. And last year, they were ravaged by injury. And it started with week 1 against Buffalo. It was immediate. The center was out. Their right guard was out. The right guard was their backup center. So they're down to Jeremiah Colon, who's, I believe now he's with the police academy. So the point I'm making here is that this team was 16 different offensive line combinations. They still had a great coaching staff and everything. They still have a great coaching staff. And I believe they have the best damn coach in the NFL in Sean McVay, and that's what makes this work. When you have Matthew Stafford, you check off that box. You have players that have already been there. They've already done that. The only one that matches up with Sean McVay in terms of Super Bowls in the NFC is Mike McCarthy. That's it. And the only other guys who don't have at quarterback who have a Super Bowl ring other than Carson Wentz and Matthew Stafford is Kyle Trask of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So really, this team should be considered like the New England Patriots were back when people were confused why everyone was pushing for them to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl in 2018. And what was the thing that was constantly said? They've been there before. They have the experience. They're more veteran presence. The 49ers are the better team. Okay, I'm sorry, Rams fans. It's true. They have the better roster, but they're supposed to. The Rams are paying $75 million to guys that currently are on the roster. They're paying a bunch of money to Ramsey. They're paying a bunch of money to Floyd and Wagner, who, by the way, wanted to play for a playoff team and is now sitting on his couch. My point here is that the Rams are the biggest chance to knock off the 49ers. If they don't do it, the 49ers are winning the Super Bowl. It's really that simple. The Rams know them the best. And if you think about it, maybe not with the Bills. I'll say that. But my point here is that when you really think about it, watching the Rams, they were built for this. They were built because over the years, they got bullied by the 49ers. They made some adjustments, and you see that, especially in the run game. And one thing I'll say, going out and getting Mike LaFleur as their offensive coordinator, that was calculated. And it pissed off Kyle Shanahan. He even said it. So I think this team right now, the last time the 49ers saw them fully healthy, wasn't the same team. They've made a lot of adjustments. Same thing with the Niners. They went out and got Chase Young. They went out and got a guy who's totally escaping me, but they went out and got some help. They're different. The Rams' difference, though, has led to them being the hottest team in football. And that's why I think they're the most dangerous.
Steezy.
Yeah, I hold on real quick. I love Jake's really, really good.
Yeah.
Right. And this is why this whole thing works, man. We've got three great content creators. I'm not going to say I'm great. You guys, if you
you're
guys
great.
like me, awesome. But listen, we got three great content creators representing this NFC roundtable, and Jake is certainly one of them. I love when he goes off, but he does these slick little things as he's going. And a lot of people probably don't catch it, but he'll go and go and go. And then he'll throw in things like, yeah, and McVay's the best coach in the NFL. And then it's like, hold on. Oh, I got to stop you right there. The best coach in the NFL, does Andy Reid not exist? Is Andy Reid just, did he retire? Did he retire?
He didn't win until he had Patrick Mahomes. And I love Andy Reid. Actually, I've kind of gotten tired of him. I'm tired of his commercials. He can go. But think about this. McVay, 5 of the 7 years, 10 wins. The other one, he had 9 wins in a 17 playoff format. He's making the playoffs. That was the year he didn't. And then it took a incredibly big number of injuries last year for them to not make the playoffs and fall off a cliff. And yet they were still competitive every fourth quarter. They're in the game by 1 possession. Sean McVay is the best coach in the NFL. I've held back. I haven't said it for years. I'm saying it now. He is the best coach in the NFL. He would turn the Panthers into a playoff team this year. He is that good.
Oh shit!
Whoa.
He is that good. If Bryce Young, if he was in Bryce Young's ear, forget about it. They're winning 9 games.
Oh my God! All right. Whoa, Steezy. All right, listen, man. If any team could knock out the 49ers and spoil their Super Bowl aspirations, what team should they fear in this overall playoff layout in the NFC?
I wish I could come up with an answer, not the LA Rams, but that's just how weak the NFC is. I mean, I still don't trust the Dallas Cowboys. The Philadelphia Eagles are a mess. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers aren't going to make it past the Eagles. The Green Bay Packers are getting ousted in the first round. My Seattle Seahawks aren't in the playoffs. And so it's like, by default, I kind of got to go with the Rams. And you guys know the saying, divisional games breed upsets. And Sean McVay has beaten Kyle Shanahan in the past. Jake is right, but Jesse is also right. The Niners are the more talented football team. They have the better roster, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in the last couple of years. The Rams have, and most of those guys are still there. Matthew
Almost
Stafford,
30.
Aaron Donald, right. Sean McVay, Cooper Kupp is still there. Puka Nacua has been an absolute revelation. Kyron Williams has been an absolute revelation. I could completely attest, not just because the Rams are in the division, but I'm a big fantasy football guy, and I picked up Kyron in pretty much every single one of my leagues, and just statistically, he's been an absolute monster. He's been doing his thing. He's been an absolute game changer for the LA Rams, and also one of the reasons why that offense has been as potent as they have been this year. Offensive line is much improved, one of the best in football. And so I think when you kind of go off of all those things that have been said, everything that Jake already said, I mean, it has to be the Rams. Like, what other answer is there?
All right. Well, I'm looking at Mike's facial expression.
I don't know. I feel like the Lions are getting disrespected. I don't understand.
Oh, dude, he's a Lions guy.
No, it's not that I'm a Lions guy. Honestly, so I'm a Cardinals fan. Everybody's fully aware, right? Kyler Murray, like, blah, blah, blah. I like to look at the underdog, right? And to me, that's the Lions to me. So the Lions, I don't know. I feel like they're being disrespected in the end of the day. I mean, I get it. Honestly, Jake, I was like, I hate the Rebel. I hear you speak, and I'm like, well, okay, yeah, check. You're good. You're really good at what you're saying. And I do believe in what you're saying too. But in terms of like, I don't know. I feel like the Lions are one of those teams that can possibly make some noise. Now, of course, in order for you guys to make noise against the 49ers, you got to get through each other first. And I still feel like the Lions have a very, very good potential before you can even get in there. So I'm going to go with the Lions. Everybody else, honestly, anything in the NFC East, they're all frauds, y'all. They're all fraud. They're weak. The Cardinals beat the Cowboys. The Cardinals beat the Eagles, and we were super close to beating the Giants and the Commanders too. I don't know why the hell we didn't do it. Oh yeah, Dobbs. That's why. But in the grand scheme of things, I think the Lions are getting disrespected. I feel like the Lions can make some noise. I don't think they can beat the 49ers. No, I don't think that. But I mean, the people that are going to come to the end, I think they could possibly do it. But no disrespect, Jake.
Real quick though, I don't believe or trust in the Detroit Lions just because I do think they're a year away. And that secondary, I don't think it's to be trusted. I mean, they've been getting torched. Ask CeeDee Lamb, ask Justin Jefferson. You could literally ask any receiver, any top-tier receiver that they faced, throughout the course of the year. I understand their secondary is injury ravaged, and so that's definitely one of the things that's playing a factor into that. They can't stop the run, but I think when you can't stop the pass, you can't stop elite receivers, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they're going to have a hard time stopping those guys. And then Jared Goff, how much do you trust him?
Demarcus Robinson too. No one's talking about him. He's been like OBJ in 2021. I wasn't expecting it, but he has. And to your point with the secondary, 800 yards in 2 games to Nick Mullins. Come on, guys. Really.
Shootout, baby, shootout.
Well, can I give you the real problem with the Rams, and this is why I can't take them as serious enough to be an upset threat to the San Francisco 49ers?
Absolutely.
Your best corner is Akello Witherspoon.
He's
who
good.
Was absolutely a retread from the 49ers. We gave him chance after chance after chance, and he was buns, man. He's having a resurgence, but he's still Akello Witherspoon. At the end of the day, Brandon Ayuk is going to eat that matchup up, and there's nothing Akello can do about it. So that's it. That's it. And then outside of that, I mean, he's the only name that you even know in the secondary. I mean, I know him, obviously.
No,
they're a division foe, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. You're not
I'll
doing
be
that
honest
whole
with you, hey,
yeah.
I mean, hey, listen, I'll be honest with you. I probably couldn't name a single person in the Rams secondary myself.
Hey,
and I host this show.
That's what you got me for. Right?
That's what I got you for as well. But hey, listen, you know what? This is a very interesting question too, because as many of you know, all right, a lot of playoff football relies on a quarterback, right? The best quarterback play. So let's talk about this right here. All right. What quarterback do you trust more? All right. And I'm not talking about his supporting cast. I'm not talking about the system that he is in. I'm talking about just the QB play. What quarterback do you trust more going into the playoffs? Matthew Stafford or Brock Purdy? We'll start off with Jesse.
Oh, I told you I am not a homer. I am going to give you what my actual thoughts are, and I believe that Matthew Stafford has proven it. If I look at all the quarterbacks in the playoffs right now, first of all, Matthew Stafford is the only elite one in the NFC. Yeah. Brock Purdy's had a phenomenal season. He's on his way to being very good, but we got to see it for more than a season. Matthew Stafford's a bona fide top 7 quarterback in this league, and when you're top 7 and you're not playing around with the bottom end of the top 10, he's a lock. He's possibly on his way to a Hall of Fame career. And I'll say this as well. Out of all the quarterbacks, Josh Allen, who I think is the second best quarterback in the league, I've been saying it for years, a guy that I absolutely love. But when it comes to the playoffs, I would take Matthew Stafford behind Patrick Mahomes as the guy I trust the most because he's gotten it done recently. And he also is filled with an abundance of talent. Matthew Stafford is phenomenal. And if it just came down to the quarterback and we were taking him out of systems, that's the easy choice. That being said, there is the talent, there is the coaching, there is the defense. Everything is accounted for in this, and one team is at home, the other team is not. And that's why ultimately I have to go with the 49ers. But also, that's why ultimately I think there are teams in the NFC or the AFC rather that are more complete teams than the Rams, can get it done offensively and defensively, have elite quarterbacks, and they can really give the 49ers problems in a Super Bowl matchup because their teams are complete and they have the better quarterback. The Rams have the better quarterback. They do not have the better players outside of that, and that is where the real issue is. Ultimately, one guy, I don't believe on that day, can overcome his roster being far inferior to the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, I'll tell you what. So as host of the show, first off, I definitely appreciate the Josh Allen comment. I certainly do. However, I feel like everybody on the panel by itself is going to agree with you there, Jesse, that they would probably take Matt Stafford over Brock Purdy. So I'm going to switch it up for the remainder of the 3. All right, there's been a narrative floating around on Brock Purdy all year saying that he is only as good as his system. If you were to plug and play just about any starting quarterback within that system, the 49ers would probably have the exact same record going into it. So I will start off with Steezy and ask you this. Is Brock Purdy a system quarterback?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was never in the MVP conversation, and none of those other quarterbacks have been. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. I'm not going to sit here and be like he's an absolute bona fide franchise quarterback, but above average, yes. Starter, yes. Rightfully in the MVP conversation this year, yes. But to answer your question, no, he's not just a system quarterback. He's a lot more.
All right, Mike, talk to me.
We just talked about a little earlier. It's not a bad thing to be called a system quarterback. I mean, I don't think it's an insult, to be honest with you. I don't get why people are. Anyways, no, I don't think he is either. Because of all the other quarterbacks that we saw, Jimmy Garoppolo and all the other quarterbacks, I think this kid can get it done. Yes, he's got the weapons, but I mean, he also needs to make the throws, right? I mean, it's not just because he's got the weapons that he's going to magically make the throws. No, he's making them himself, right? And be able to read the defenses. So I give him a lot more credit than he deserves. And yes, to answer that original question, yes, Matthew Stafford, and it hurts me to say because I hate LA. I really do. But yeah, that. Sure.
All right, Jake, talk to me.
Yeah, here's the thing, okay? Because I'm actually, like I said, I kind of like Brock Purdy. I mean, as much as a Rams analyst would, but I don't think it's fair for us to say he is or he isn't. I think the thing with the system quarterback is it's almost like we've already, like, it's more of like hypothesizing and not really knowing. Like, it's like, oh yeah, like we don't know for sure, because Brock Purdy may never play in another offense, or he might go to another offense, but we don't know if that's going to happen. So I can't say like for certain that Brock Purdy is or isn't a system quarterback, because I don't know for sure if he could go to, say, Carolina and he'd be amazing in Carolina. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a bad, spot to be in. But I can tell you this, he's not a game manager. And I think that is the more offensive term, because I think system quarterback, Jared Goff's a system quarterback, basically. We saw the system, in LA with Sean McVay. We see the system now with Ben Johnson. He's a system quarterback. That's not a bad thing. It means he's kind of like a point and shoot quarterback, right? Brock Purdy's not point and shoot, though. He does a lot of off script stuff that Jared Goff doesn't even do. So, for me, I feel like, obviously, I think the game manager, he's absolutely not. As far as system quarterback goes, I mean, based on what I've seen and how well he works off script, I don't really feel like system quarterbacks are working that well, out of structure, off platform, taking that deep shot that really, I think sometimes Kyle gets a little annoyed with him, because he's like, all right, well, Jimmy was taking this, and then sometimes he'll go over the top and it works. But I think sometimes even Kyle's like, that's not what we're trying to do. We got this unbelievable defense. Don't put the ball in harm's way. And he really hasn't. But I think we saw some of that against the Ravens, where, he kind of tries to extend it a little bit further out. So kind of the opposite, if anything, of being a system quarterback. But, that whole implant talk that we always have, like we had it with the Patriots. Like, if you took Tom Brady off the team and you put him on Green Bay, and you put Aaron Rodgers in New England, and it's like, people would say, oh, they'd win 10 Super Bowls. Like, there's no way for us to know that. I will say this, Matthew Stafford with Kyle Shanahan would be absolutely insane. Like, that would work. Patrick Mahomes would work. The best quarterbacks in the league going to with the best system, arguably, in the league would work. But like, to go out and say like, oh yeah, Desmond Ridder would be so much better. I don't know. Do you know? Because I don't. And I feel like there's a lot of those guys where oftentimes that gets thrown around. And I think with Purdy, like, I think he'd be fine on the Rams, but I think there are things Stafford can do that Sean McVay leans on, that, it affects the play calling, if you will, that they wouldn't do if they had Brock Purdy. Like, I think that's the best way I can answer that question, is that I think Purdy's better than the haters that just say that he sucks. Like, essentially, like, I think it's weak analysis, and like, I think we have to be better than that. And obviously we're on the space where we're all content creators, so we are better than that, because I just listen to every single one of you. But like, I feel like it's really our job. Like, if people are going to really take us seriously, and I'm not talking about the people on like the big entertainment mediums that say whatever the hell they want for clicks. I'm saying, if you really want to be taken seriously, Do the homework. Watch his film. I'm not talking about just the highlights. Like, go and watch his all 22. It's available on NFL Plus. Like, you can see he's doing things off script. And what I mean by that is it's not as simple as Kyle points and says, throw to him. It's not as simple as that. And I see a lot of regurgitated commentary about that. I just don't think it's true. So I think he's somewhat underrated now. And it's weird to say that because I feel like he's properly rated by people that I respect. So maybe I don't really care that he's underrated, but he's not. When he's talked about, it's always one way or the other. It's people going overzealous saying he should be MVP, or it's people on the other sideline saying that Ravens game is the reason why he shouldn't even be the starting quarterback. Sam Darnold's better. He proved, and like, so you know, that's pretty much what I have to say about that.
Damn. All right. Well, hey. I mean, I feel like you just made, I feel like with Jesse happy as hell with that analysis right there.
I try to keep it straight,
I'm sure you did. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, make sure you smash that like button for us. And by the way, we are so close to 1,000 subscribers, guys. This is the 4th roundtable that has been released so far this year. And we're really trying to make sure that this gets just as popular as the other 3. We already see as many of you getting excited in the chat, talking your trash. And don't worry, guys. Listen, we are on here each and every single Tuesday moving forward at the exact same time. So always make sure you have these notifications turned on and get ready to talk some NFC West ball because the playoffs are absolutely here. Right before we go, I do want to go around the table. And so we can let everybody know where to find each and every single one of you on an individual basis. And more importantly, what your content plans are for the remainder of the week. We'll start off with the first seed himself. Jesse, what's up?
Yeah, you can tap in on the YouTube channel, Last Second Sports. I'll be streaming multiple times to round out the week. And I will say this. I was rooting for the Lions because I feel like that franchise and that fan base needs a win. But I am now rooting for the Rams. I've got to see this matchup next week. I don't think anything would make this show better than a Rams 49ers showdown getting ready for next week. So that is my new muse that I am rooting for. Rams to beat the Lions. Let's settle this thing once and for all. This is what I want. So hopefully that's the matchup that we get next week, Jake.
Beautiful. All right, Jake, what about you, man? What's going on your channel and plans for the week?
I'm with you. And actually, Jesse, fun fact, 2021, hate to say this, I know Rams fans are going to be I wanted them to beat the Packers because I wanted that matchup. So I am the same way. It's a risky thing, but hey, you know what? You don't control at the end of the day what happens. So I guess there's nothing to it. Yeah. So my content plans and really appreciate you, of course, I'm just going to be pumping out content about the Rams Lions game. I have the Downtown Rams podcast. I just actually on my other show, the Believe in Rams podcast with Cam Lynch, just interviewed Eric Dickerson. So you guys can check that out on my channel. Yeah. A lot of fun, great interview, had some great things to say. But yeah, we'll pretty much have that. And one thing I'll say, Jesse, is I don't think it's going to be until the NFC title game because I think Jordan Love and the Packers are going to upset the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, whoa. Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be even better.
He's the hottest quarterback in the NFL. He's not
I love it.
He's on absolute tear right now. I'm telling you, go and watch him. His tape is fun, man.
He's phenomenal. They
might have the next Aaron Rodgers, so to speak, man. I can't believe they found somebody like that, but I'm not kidding. The Dallas Cowboys are in trouble. And the last two, the Seahawks, Steezy knows, Seahawks had him on the ropes at home. And the Lions won that game. We all know they got kind of screwed in that one. So Dallas is in trouble. They just don't know it.
So are we surprised that Green Bay has found yet another great quarterback, right? I mean, those Bulls went from Favre to Aaron Rodgers and now to Jordan Love. When will they have a shit quarterback for a couple of years? I think that's the question all of us would love to have answered. Mike, what's going on your channel for the rest of the week? What are the plans, baby? Where can they find you? Talk to me.
Find me anywhere, AZ Sports Fan. You could just Google it. You find it at my YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all that different stuff, or X, whatever you want to call it. Just off-season content, man. Draft, free agency. What are the Cardinals going to do? That's basically what we're going to talk about here from here until March, and hopefully some rumors kind of coming around. And because we got a lot of people obviously to talk about. We got some big contract, not like big names that you guys might know, but like offensive lineman. Hollywood Brown, is he coming back? That type of stuff. So, but we got some things to talk about. I'm excited, and honestly, this is really fun. I'm so excited to get this NFC West like glory days back. Right now, I'm in the bottom. That's fine, but give me a year or so, we could be right back. Dog fights every single week when we play with each other. Play against each other. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Easy. What about you, man? What's going on your channel? Where can they find you?
Man, before you guys do that, I just want to say shout out Norbcam. He's one of the reasons why I even got into the space a couple of years ago. I definitely look up to him in this space, and I'm just a fill-in. So y'all probably shouldn't expect to see me too much here unless he needs another sub. But at Norbcam, at the NFC West Roundtable. I'm not sure what you guys' handles are, but definitely be sure to subscribe to everybody here. I mean, great guys, great content creators. Jesse, I definitely want to tap in with your stuff, but Mike, I'm familiar with your stuff. Jake, I'm familiar with your stuff. I could definitely vouch for these guys. Dan, I want to get familiar with your stuff. And so once you guys do that, then, if you mess with the Seahawks.
Hey, bro, this is Roundtable Sports. You can say fuck. It's cool.
I'm just not used to that because there's a lot of kids.
No, bro, you're cool, man. You're cool. Yeah.
It's the suit, man. He's like, no, I'm not dressed for that.
All right. But ask DZA Smith, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm going to be dropping a bunch of off-season stuff. I want to talk about Pete Carroll and potential replacements and things of that nature. So, that's DZA Smith. I appreciate you guys for having me, though. Thank you.
Yeah, man. No issue. And
Great
shout out
fill-in,
to
man.
our producer, Richie, for making a sneak appearance there on accident. Thanks, Rich.
Appreciate
Appreciate that. All right. Hey, guys, listen, thank you so much once again for tuning in to an edition of the NFC West Roundtable. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because we're doing this every single Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. EST. See you next week. And maybe we'll have two teams that are advancing to the divisional. See you later.